Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Green Flag. I'm your host, Lukas Wacker, and with me, as always, we have Kyle Cushman. And before the show even started here, we just heard some breaking news from Kyle himself. He's never watched the movie Days of Thunder, so for all of our racing enthusiasm that we share week in and week out, he's not seen one of the greatest racing movies ever made.
Sorry.
Yeah, I just had to put that out there. So it is a great way to start the episode there.
Yeah.
But besides that, how you doing today, Kyle, before we get into today's news?
Well, other than being called out, I'm doing good. I guess I have to start watching movies to appease you or something. I don't know. But hey, you know what? I'll watch it eventually. At some point, I'll watch it. I don't know if that'll be like tomorrow or like 10 years from now, but I'm sure I'll watch it
whenever I'm back
point.
in Toronto, which could be 20 years from now or 10 years from now.
Exactly. So who the hell knows? But yeah, so there you go. There's your fun little tidbit that both you and everybody else can make fun of me for this time.
Breaking news. That's crazy.
Doing good. We've got racing to talk about, and like actual racing to preview and get to this weekend, which is going to be fun. And to that point, it's 3 races this weekend because F2 returns and Formula One is back. So after a weekend off, it's going to be nice to get back on the track and get some racing.
Yeah, I'm very, very excited. They're going to be in Bahrain this weekend, usually at the beginning of the calendar. Now it's the penultimate-ish kind of weekends it's the third to last weekend, but they're doing it in Bahrain again next weekend. It's a complicated process for Formula One right now, but they're in Bahrain this weekend, so we'll talk about that a little later on. But we start off today's episode with a little bit of sad news. Hendrick Motorsports tire carrier William, and then his nickname Rowdy, Harrell, along with his wife Blakey, were killed in a car accident over the past couple of days down in Florida on their honeymoon. Very, very sad news. He worked with Hendrick Motorsports for 8 seasons, was a 2-time Xfinity Series champion, pit crew member, and was also a middle linebacker for Alabama and won 3 national titles. So quite the career there for Mr. Harrell, and it's truly, truly saddening to hear this tragic news, especially on such a joyous occasion like their wedding and going into their honeymoon, just starting that next chapter in their life, and to be taken away in an instant like that is truly, truly heartbreaking. So a tough way to start today's episode, Kyle.
Yeah, just completely awful news. And it's just kind of the news that just kind of makes you go, damn, like it's supposed to be like the highlight of your life, the best time of your life. And something like that happens. Just, truly horrendous, and hopefully the now 48 team, I guess it is, will be able to kind of rally around him and bring his memory into next season, and hopefully have a successful year in his honor, because just truly, truly awful news. And by all accounts, he was a great guy as well.
Yeah, the stuff we've seen from Greg Ives and Alex Bowman, obviously very close to their team member, and It's been a sad couple of days just to see the outpouring of support and love for the family and friends for Mr. Harrell and his wife Blakey. So very, very tragic news there. We're wishing our best to the family and friends, and our condolences to the family as well. Just had to point that out. It's been a kind of a tough week here since we on Monday with Morgan Shepherd, and then Ken Squire, who's actually doing well. He's recovering very well in the hospital as well from COVID-19. So happy to see that on the positive side of things. But then this comes along and kind of shakes us all again and just reminds us how precious life is. And it's just it's a sad time for the racing world right now. So our thoughts and prayers are with everybody involved, and we're wishing you guys all the best. So just had to leave that off with this show.
Yes.
We don't want to start off with a tragic news story every week, but this is definitely something that we need to address. So we can move on from that and into some silly season news once again, Kyle.
As per usual.
Yeah. And we've got Raphael Lessard, the Canadian, seemingly finding a place now as he has signed a contract for GMS Racing for the 2021 season, but it's only for 12 races for the time being. He's trying to get full-time sponsorship to get a full ride for next season, but he's slated to have 12 races as of right now, and we're hoping that he can fill out the rest of the 10 races for next season for the calendar and get some sponsorship money and get some sponsorship on that truck so that he can run the full-time, because we're big fans of Raphael Lessard, and we're wishing him all the best in his career. So this would be a huge opportunity for him to go from one powerhouse in the truck series at KBM over to GMS, who just won the truck series championship. If he can go over there for a full-time ride, it definitely leaves a lot of playoffs people on the bubble of the playoffs for the Truck Series a little bit more awakened, because if we had another GMS truck full time, we're looking at a very slim opportunity for a lot of organizations to find their way into the playoffs. So a huge opportunity here for Raphael Lessard if he can get the full-time sponsorship. It's just whether that comes. Hopefully it does come, but for right now, at least he's got something secure for 2021, Kyle.
Yeah, and even if he doesn't end up getting the full season and he is only able to run part-time, not eligible for the playoffs, well, you're still with GMS Racing. And I don't know if you know this, but last year they were the dominant team because they had 3 trucks in the championship 4. The one great thing about the Xfinity and Truck Series for both of them is that they don't have the 4-team limit. You can run as many trucks as you damn well please. And GMS is taking advantage of this because obviously at times last year we saw them run 5 trucks with the extra truck, usually with Sam Mayer, but they had a few other people, including now full-time driver Chase Purdy. But because of the open ability, you can add somebody like Chase Purdy full-time, but then when somebody like Raphael Lessard becomes available, you can go and get him as well. So great to see from that perspective. We were talking about it earlier in the week about maybe if Lessard had become available earlier, would somebody like GMS pick him up and put him in that open spot that Brett Moffitt left behind? Well, it didn't matter because they picked him up anyway. So great to see from that perspective and great to see GMS going out and getting talent when it becomes available as well. So from that perspective, great on GMS for that. Hopefully he can get the full season because I genuinely think that with GMS, with the full season under his belt now, he could go out and put up similar numbers to what Tyler Ankrum did this year and be in that kind of playoff conversation, maybe squeak in on points, maybe go out and get a win. Who knows? But big move for Raphael Lessard here, no longer with Toyota as well. I think that's a big element as well. No longer the tier development driver, which we see far too often with a lot of these prospects, but that's a whole different discussion. But with Raphael Lessard here, his numbers are kind of brought down by his first half of the season. And in those first 10 races, he struggled a lot. And 0 top 10s, 18.3 average finish, wasn't good at all in Kyle Busch Motorsports equipment. The second half of the season, though, was significantly improved to the tune of, obviously, the win at Talladega, 4 top 5s, and in total, 7 top 10s in those final 13 races for an average finish of 12.9, which was less than a position off of Christian Eckes. So,
and just think Martinsville, he got wrecked late too. I mean,
exactly. Like there's a lot of different positions there where that suddenly gets bumped up as well. So Raphael Lessard's second half of the season, when he finally got adjusted to the trucks, got some races, got some laps under his belt, was a very different driver than he was in the first half of the season in terms of his success. So going into next year, I'm expecting some really strong results with GMS. I'm really glad that he landed there at a good team, and I'm excited to see what he can do next year carrying that Canadian flag.
Yeah, for sure. They've got Creed, Zane Smith, Chase Purdy, Raphael Lessard, and Tyler Ankrum as well. But you can't forget Sam Mayer as well, trying to run some part-time races as well. So you're looking at a 6 truck potentially there for GMS on some occasions if they can get Lessard full-time. I mean, that's an incredible crop of drivers over there at GMS, and it's a lot of money to put it into those trucks to try and get them running at a high level. And hopefully they don't take a step back with taking so much on for next season, because it is a lot for a Truck Series team to put this much money and this much effort into making trucks for so many different drivers. But hopefully we can see Lessard full-time, but for right now, at least he's got some security for next season. So I know he's back in Quebec now, back home for the holidays. So it's good to – hopefully it's going to be a relaxing holidays from here on out. So
nice that he got it done and dusted early on after the announcement. It wasn't something that dragged out or anything like that. And we don't know what the 12 confirmed races are yet. I would imagine that it's some races that play to his strengths. Obviously, he showed
better be in Canada, that one.
Well, that one's gotta be. But other than that, to that point, actually, showed some real speed at the Daytona road course. So you would imagine that the road courses are on that schedule. He looked really strong on the super speedways as well. Of course, got the win, but early on in the season as well at Daytona, he looked good before he got spun there. So you would imagine that those are on the schedule, and then maybe he can piece together the rest there. But yeah, definitely hope that he can fill out the rest of the schedule, because him going full time would be great news for just the depth of the series, for him as a prospect, and for GMS as a whole, really.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm really high on this guy. I know you are as well. So I think he's got loads of potential. It's just a shame that KBM's having to lose out to him. But it's not like they were up against the max, or there's no maximum for the trucks, but it's not like they were pushed to the edge in terms of their full-time drivers either. So if they're looking to go 3 full-time next year, it's unfortunate that Lessard gets the boot and he's going to an organization that already has 4 full-time trucks kind of thing. I think KBM, if they're just lacking funding, or if they just don't want to put so much effort into 4 different trucks kind of thing on a full-time basis, because it's basically inevitable that Chandler Smith's going to go full-time next year in like either the 51 or the 46 or whatever,
right?
Unless they just want to stick to the 2-truck format that they've had for a lot of years now, and they just put Chandler Smith part-time again, let Kyle do his 5 races, and Smith takes the rest of them because there's no age limit on him now. He can drive whenever he wants on the big tracks. So I think it's definitely within the realm of possibility that Chandler Smith gets that full-time ride over at KBM. But if he doesn't, then we're looking at John Hunter Nemechek, who we talked about earlier this week, and Christian Eck is taking those 2 full-time rides at KBM next year. But for Raphael Lessard, he's on the right path here to maybe go into the junior motorsports table here eventually, if it lends itself to that, if he can have a successful Truck Series tenure. So wishing him all the best in the next season, and hopefully he can get that full-time sponsorship sorted out for 2021. So on the opposite side of things, for a lot of departures from KBM this offseason, including the next one here in Mike Hillman Jr., the crew chief of Raphael Lessard. He's going to be moving to DGR-Crosley Racing, and he's going to be the crew chief for Hailie Deegan's first season in the Truck Series. So a great crew chief there. I think he was in the Cup Series at one time, if I'm not mistaken, and I think he was over at Roush, but I could be wrong on that. But he's done some work in the Cup Series and worked his way down to KBM. They've had an incredible crop of crew chiefs over there at KBM, leading to much of their success, including Rudy Fugle, who's moving up to the Cup Series next year to partner William Byron. So 2 crew chiefs departing there, the organization there. So, but this is a great opportunity for Hailie Deegan to get a very solid crew chief for her first season, Kyle.
Yeah, and this is a guy that has been a mainstay in the Truck Series over his career. Back, his heyday was really late 2000s with Todd Bodine winning a couple championships with him in the Truck Series. Had some forays elsewhere, but ended up coming back down to the Truck Series for these last, I think, 3 seasons. Yes, 3 seasons here. But the 2 main ones with full-time drivers being in 2019 with Harrison Burton, and then this past season with Raphael Lessard. And both of those seasons were a bit underwhelming when you look at what the expectations are for that team in KBM versus what the drivers were able to do. We don't really know whether that was crew chief. You can't really say it was driver, because like what Harrison Burton did this year in the Xfinity. So you maybe rule out that. And so then you look at potentially the equipment, the setups, and anything with that. We don't really know. And I think this year we're going to find out with John Hunter Nemechek driving for Kyle Busch Motorsports, and seemingly a crew chief shakeup as well, because Hillman Jr. is now gone, and also Rudy Fugle is gone. So we're going to see definitely a different mix at Kyle Busch Motorsports this year. But to that point, Raphael Lessard, tough season for him, of course, being a rookie coming in with no practice, no qualifying for much of the season for the trucks. Was always going to be behind the 8 ball. Still has some good results, as we mentioned, obviously, with our Lessard segment. Second half of the year was much better than the first half. So I think it's great for DGR to go out and get such an experienced guy like Mike Hillman Jr., who has run in the trucks for many seasons, has had full race up to Xfinity, and even 1 year, 13 races in Cup as well. So this is a guy that's been around.
Who was it for, the Cup?
It was, the owner was Joe Falk, so I don't exactly remember what team.
I thought he was over at Roush.
I believe Brandon Jones in 2016 was with RCR. So not Roush, I think, unless there was maybe
I'm probably wrong
races
on it
back in the day, or maybe it was like Kevin Harvick or something like that. But
something, I don't know. I'm wrong on that.
Yeah, I'll look
his
up,
name's familiar with the Cup Series, I thought, but
I'll look up who he was with in 2014. But an experienced guy, he's been around for many seasons, 14 seasons, I believe, here, according to Racing Reference, in the Truck Series. So this is a guy that's been around, done that, has run with guys up at the front, has done some of the middle pack stuff as well. So I think it's great to get somebody as experienced as Mike Hillman Jr. in with somebody like Hailie Deegan, who is going to need that kind of sturdy presence as crew chief to help her through this first season, which will almost certainly have its ups and downs as any rookie season does. Just look at what Tanner Gray's been able to do at DGR, where he's had some highs. He's also had some pretty bad lows as well. So definitely a mix of things, but I think it's a great addition in terms of the experience that you're getting in Mike Hillman Jr.
Yeah, I'm pumped for the Truck Series season, man.
Oh, it's going to be so good.
So many talented drivers and a lot of competitive shakeups as well. The playoffs are going to be extremely tight. I don't know how you're going to be able to define who makes it and who doesn't. I'm just hoping. I mean, if you think about Stuart Friesen and Johnny Sauter this year, how bad they struggled, I'm expecting them to bounce back somewhat. Maybe not. I mean, Stuart Friesen probably more so than Johnny Sauter. I think Sauter's kind of on the way out of his NASCAR career now with the young talent that is coming up. But there's some big names that missed out last season. Raphael Lessard missed out on the playoffs last season. So, I mean, there's a lot of different opportunities for some guys here and now girl in the Truck Series. So I'm very, very excited to see how Hailie Deegan does with Mike Hillman Jr. atop of the pit box for her first season. She's just going to go out there and make laps. We're not expecting a playoff appearance by any means from Hailie Deegan next year, but hopefully there's some encouraging signs in her first season in the top 3 levels of NASCAR. So any final thoughts on the Raphael Lessard, Mike Hillman Jr. kind of segment there?
Just that KBM is going to look very different next year. And that's not just driver lineup, but that's also at the helm as well. And I think this is a shakeup that was needed for that team because they've kind of been in a rut these last couple of years in terms of championship level of performance. Sure. They've been competitive, but that's not what the expectation is at KBM. It's championships. And they haven't been at that level these last couple of years. So honestly, just the shakeup, it might be what they need, whether that be the crew chiefs, drivers, basically everything, just kind of reset and go forwards from next year onwards. And I like it from a KBM perspective. Obviously, you don't want to lose somebody like Rudy Fugle, but I think it gave them the opportunity to just hit that reset button and just kind of see what wasn't working, go into next year just kind of fresh. And also for the other people, different opportunities. Obviously, Fugle, we've known about for a while, but going up to the Cup Series with Hendrick Motorsports, you can't turn that down. For Raphael Lessard, obviously tough for him to lose that seat to John Hunter Nemechek, but he goes out and gets an equal, if not better, opportunity at GMS there in terms of what they've been able to do these last few years. And Mike Hillman Jr. goes over to DGR, which is a relatively new Truck Series team, but has quite a few prospects coming down the road. So it seems like that will probably be a stable position for him as well, and gets to do so with one of the more high profile prospects coming up in the sport as well with Deegan. So it seems like this is almost a situation where it could have gone sour for a lot of people, but has almost turned into a bright spot for a lot of people involved, and remains to be seen who replaces everybody at KBM. But depending on how that goes, this could be a great situation for everyone involved.
Yeah, a changing of the guard / rebrand for KBM in some respects. I mean,
retool of sorts. Yeah,
that 4 team is just getting totally revamped with no crew chief and a new driver. So we'll see who John Hunter Nemechek crew chief for next season is.
And maybe Nemechek brings somebody down from the Cup Series or something like that as well. Like you've got a high profile driver there in Nemechek, so you would imagine that you'd be able to attract a pretty decent name in terms of crew chief as well. So lots of stuff to pay attention to at KBM. We still don't know the full driver lineup. We don't know 2 full-time trucks, 3, what's going to go on with the 54 in the Xfinity as well, and whether prospects are going to be part-time there, whether there'll be full-time in trucks. There's still a lot to know about going into next season, but very, very excited to see what comes in these coming weeks before Daytona for the 2021 Truck Series season, because it's going to be another amazing one.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very pumped for it. And the news does not stop there for the Truck Series, as we've got our last bit of Truck Series news today. Ryan Truex will race full-time in the Truck Series in 2021 for Niece Motorsports in the number 40 truck. Had a nice, clever way of tweeting out the announcement.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
All of the new thing now is look top left, look top right, look at the helmet, look at the grill, look at the tire, whatever it was. And it ended up announcing I'll be racing this truck full-time in 2021. So So I've always liked Ryan Truex. I think that he's got a lot of, I guess I would say talent, but he just hasn't been found yet. He hasn't had that great opportunity. He's ran some part-time stuff here and there throughout his entire NASCAR tenure. Obviously, the younger brother to Martin Truex Jr. So hasn't had the opportunities that Martin Truex Jr. has had necessarily. But I mean, I feel differently about this move if Niece Motorsports hadn't had such a bad season this past year. So, but it's still an opportunity for Ryan Truex to hopefully stay in a seat long-term or just a full season under his belt, because God knows that he needs something, some sort of security with a job in terms of racing here. So congratulations to Ryan Truex on this nice move here for his career, Kyle.
Yeah, and it's great to see that Niece as well is going with a couple of full-time trucks, maybe even 3 full-time drivers.
There's a lot of
obviously
drivers.
We know that they'll have the full-time trucks. It's just whether they'll have the rotation of drivers like they've had this year and in years previous as well, or whether they'll go for the full-time guys and see what they can do on a full-time basis and maybe get a win, make the playoffs or anything like that. And we already know Carson Hocevar is kind of the young prospect coming up for them. Is going to run full-time next year, but now we're adding Ryan Truex to that as well. And we expect Trevor Bayne to potentially be in that mix as well. We don't know if he'll be full-time, part-time, or at all next year with Niece, but great to see Natalie Decker in that mix as well. Like, there's a lot of different potential routes that Niece Motorsports could go down here, and I like this move as well. Ryan Truex is a guy that over these last few seasons have kind of been 1 year too early for a lot of his career here. And you look to 2017 with Hattori running in the 16 truck there, finished 9th in the championship, had some really solid runs there. Next season, Brett Moffitt goes in there, they step up their equipment there, and then they win the championship. You look to him joining Colleague Racing in 2018 with the 11 car there, and that was kind of the season before they really became a true kind of playoff team. They squeaked into the playoffs, finished 12th that season, and then 2019 and onwards, we know what they've become since then. But that team has really taken steps since Ryan Truex left there. So he's kind of been 1 year too early these last few seasons. With Junior Motorsports in 2019, he had a great second place finish at Phoenix, a couple other top 10s mixed in with a few races that he ran that season. But this year, just a few races with Niece Motorsports, nothing too crazy on the schedule, but did pretty okay. Finished the season with 4 straight races, ended up finishing 30th or lower in 2 of those 3 due to some issues, which is unfortunate to see, but mixed in over the season 2 12th place finishes, 2 13th place finishes, which when you look at what Niece Motorsports was this year, are actually pretty solid results. Compared to other people that ran for them this year, it was on par essentially with what Hocevar did, a little bit lesser than what Ty Majeski did, and what was supposed to be his full season ended up only being 15 races, and then Ross Chastain was kind of the guy that was clearly ahead of the rest of the pack there. But I like the move for Niece Motorsports. I like the continuity of having one driver for the full season rather than, I think it was something like a dozen, maybe even more drivers that they had this year. They tried a lot of stuff this year. But I like the move going into next year. Got a young prospect in Carson Hocevar who looks pretty decent, and then add a veteran there in Ryan Truex and see what they can do on a full-time basis.
Yeah, for sure. I think Niece Motorsports is looking for a little bit of a bounce back here after this past year. So putting Ryan Truex in your truck is only going to help things. I remember him back, I think it was in the 99 and then Nationwide Series a long time ago. And he did some solid things in that car as well. So I've always liked Ryan Truex, probably more so than his brother and Martin, just based off of what I see in him and just not getting that opportunity yet. But hopefully this is a step in the right direction and he can finally get that break that he deserves. He's had, his runs haven't been necessarily bad in the opportunities that he's gotten. It's just that there's been somebody next in line that he's just been that stopgap kind of driver that people have looked towards. And hopefully this is the beginning of something great here for Ryan Truex, and he can get back up to the Xfinity Series. He probably will never get to the Cup Series in like a solid ride, but I think an Xfinity Series ride on a full-time basis is definitely within reach for someone like Ryan Truex. So hopefully he does well in his 40 entry for Niece Motorsports in 2021. So that does it for the Truck Series news for today's episode, but it does not stop there as we have a Chase Elliott news tidbit for you. He's going to be running the Chili Bowl in this year's running of it. Huge opportunity here for Chase Elliott to go on the dirt scene. It's been teased a little bit about the dirt with the Hendrick Motorsports drivers. Alex Bowman, about a month and a half ago, tweeted something out about it, and now Chase Elliott's going to make his kind of dirt debut here for a huge event in the Chili Bowl. Kyle Larson runs it every year, does very, very well in it. Christopher Bell is no slouch either. He wins that race quite a bit as well. So it'll be interesting to see how Chase Elliott does against his Cup Series counterparts here, and I'm very, very pumped. I mean, I probably won't be able to see the Chili Bowl because it's very difficult to try and find any sort of stream on it. But I'm looking forward to seeing how Chase Elliott actually runs after the event is results and the results in, Kyle.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to try and find a way to watch the race. That's for sure. It's going to be great to see Chase Elliott go down there, and it's great to see a NASCAR champion kind of go out and try some other stuff. It's something that we necessarily haven't had
crazy for him
a ton recently, but going out and not only just trying to diversify his own skill set, but him going other places also raises the profile of some of these maybe lesser known events, such as the Chili Bowl or the Snowball Derby, which I believe he already said that he's going back to. And obviously Rolex 24, which is definitely not a small event, but he's going to a bunch of different stuff. And it's great to see him staying involved, remaining interested, and bringing more eyeballs to multiple different races. I can tell you a year or two ago, I did not know anything about the Chili Bowl, but with people like Kyle Larson and other NASCAR drivers coming from dirt, it's kind of raised his profile for at least people like myself that aren't necessarily dirt track guys who grew up around that and kind of know that as their bread and butter. I know nothing about dirt racing. And so it's great to see guys like Chase Elliott going down there, raising the awareness for stuff like that. And a race which by all accounts is just phenomenal entertainment. And just look at the entry list from the 2020 Chili Bowl. You had Christopher Bell, Kyle Larson, Chase Briscoe, who I believe are all supposed to run the 2021 race as well.
I believe so as well, yeah.
But you also had other guys in the 2020 Chili Bowl like Justin Allgaier, Alex Bowman, Ryan Newman, Ricky Stenhouse, and JJ Yeley, who seems to run anything and everything. But it's just a really fun event that kind of brings together. It's kind of the culmination or the marquee event for dirt racing, and it brings together some of the guys.
Like an all-star race.
Almost to a certain extent, yeah. And it brings back the guys that have graduated from dirt racing and have gone on to do big things on kind of a bigger stage, gives them an opportunity to come back down and return to their roots, gives guys like Chase Elliott the opportunity to go down and kind of see what he can do versus that level. So it's great from all those perspectives. And yeah, anytime you can get a high profile driver to go out and do some other different events is great for not just their own kind of profile and skill set, but racing really as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, I like the dirt scene. I wish I could watch it more. I've seen one race live. I think it was, I remember like what it was because it was a Sunday race. It was in the 2008, and it was during the Coke, I guess the Pepsi 400 it was then at Daytona. And it was like they had it on the loudspeaker on what was happening in the final laps of the race. And it was when Jeff Gordon got spun on the restart there and spun to the inside, but they didn't throw a caution. And then it was very close between Edwards and Kyle Busch. And then Kyle ended up winning the race. But I remember them saying it over the loudspeaker, but we were watching a dirt event at the time. So that's my only memory of the dirt race. So it's been a long time since I've seen anything remotely close to it, but I try to stay in touch with the dirt scene a little bit. And the Chili Bowl is going to be a lot of fun to see how it pans out. And, it makes you wonder a little bit if Chase had all of this planned before he won the Cup Series championship. Because, if he wasn't, I mean, it's still great. But the fact that the Cup Series champion is doing all this extracurricular stuff outside of NASCAR is great for the sport, great for himself. And he's doing a lot of things to kind of promote the sport as well with going to the dirt scene. And you wonder if it's maybe a little bit of practice for the Bristol dirt race for next season, get him a little bit familiar with it. And I
can't imagine that there's a whole lot that you'll be able to pull from it. The cars are just so different.
Just a feel of being on dirt a little bit. There's probably a little bit of skills that can translate. So anything can help when it comes to that. whatever that race is going to be. I could say something else besides that, but it's going to be fun nonetheless to see Chase Elliott go against some of these guys that are true veterans on the dirt scene. So I'm very pumped for the Chili Bowl. I'm not exactly sure when it is.
I just looked it up. It is January 11th through 16th.
All right. So then he's going to the Rolex right after that.
Yeah, it's a pretty packed schedule there. So
he doesn't get long in an off season, that's for sure. And then he's going, maybe gets a couple of weeks off, does some media, and he's back down to Daytona for Speed Week. So a tight knit off season for Chase Elliott, but when you win a Cup Series championship, I think that all kind of pays off. So I'm very, very excited for the Chili Bowl next season. So any final thoughts on that side of things, Kyle?
Yeah, just great to see somebody like Chase Elliott going out and doing some different stuff, remaining interested, and bringing some attention to some races that maybe don't get as much attention as they deserve. So great from all of that. And Chase Elliott, I guess, didn't want an off season. I guess he got his during the COVID break, and he's like, screw it, let's go and do everything in the off season. So, hey, staying busy.
He's running a lot, man. It's a lot of races, and I'm very fascinated to see how he does, because it's not like he's going to be the only Cup Series guy in these races. He'll be going against some of his counterparts, and I mean, does he wipe the floor with them, or is it very competitive? I mean, who knows? Because Chase Elliott hasn't really done any of this stuff before, so it's very much a learning basis for him. But his skill set's definitely going to be wider after this off season, that's for sure. So that does it for the NASCAR side of things in terms of news. We can move over to Formula One, as we finally know where Kevin Magnussen is going to be driving for in 2021, and it's not in Formula One, and it's not an IndyCar. He's going to IMSA. He'll race for Chip Ganassi's Cadillac IMSA team for the entire 2021 season, And since Wayne Taylor Racing is moving from Cadillac to Acura for next season, so full-timer Renger van der Sande, is that right?
Hey, you're asking the wrong guy for how it's supposed to be said, but I think it's Ranger van der Zande. I think that's how it's supposed to be said, but yeah, you're wrong crowd for the proper Dutch pronunciation of that. But it's definitely quite the move. And it seemed like he was very interested to go the IndyCar route, but almost he became available too late in the IndyCar offseason there. There were some ties potentially to McLaren or even Chip Ganassi Racing there, with him ending up at the IMSA team there, but just became available too late in the offseason. All the teams had basically tied everything up with the sponsors that they had available to add drivers to, and any remaining seats are basically people who are bringing their own sponsorship, and that's not really the situation that Magnussen is in. So instead, he ends up going to Chip Ganassi Racing for the IMSA side of things. And that obviously opens up the door for a potential IndyCar route later on down the road. But for this season, it's kind of going back to what his father was known for, Jan, and all the great success that he had in sports cars over his career. And interesting that is the Chip Ganassi team that's being reformed for IMSA in the DPI class. So he'll be up at the front looking for overall race victories. And it's going to be fun to see him come over to North America, maybe bring some more eyeballs to IMSA and some of the marquee events there. But hey, that's another big name that you can add to the Rolex 24 lineup at the very least. Very excited to see what he can do in the full season of IMSA, see what that Chip Ganassi team can do over the full year. Obviously, we don't know too much about IMSA, the ins and outs of it, but he's got a good full-time partner there in Van der Zande, and they've got probably the best third guy that you can add on for the endurance races, and Scott Dixon there, who obviously is returning to Chip Ganassi Racing for the IMSA side of things. Now that team is back, he doesn't have to go elsewhere for that endurance races. So great to see Ganassi back in the IMSA side of things and bring over somebody like Kevin Magnussen to that series. Yeah.
My New Year's resolution, or one of them, is I'm going to start watching like these endurance races on a consistent basis. 'Cause I always watch the Rolex 24. I have for like the last 4 years now or so. But besides that, watch it as much just because of the time difference as well. Like when they start and, you know, when you think of Le Mans and stuff like that, it's difficult to try and find the time to watch it. But I'm committed to try and watch as many of them as possible, just like try and tune in, not necessarily watch the whole thing because that's just absurd, but
honestly,
just tune in every once in a while.
Be more aware of it as well. It's IMSA and WEC as well are a couple things that I've kind of glossed over in kind of the motorsports that I've paid attention to, just because it's pretty difficult to get into. There's just so much to take in, whether that's the driver lineups or the different series running all at the same time, the different classes, all that kind of stuff. It's a bit difficult to get into, but this year I slowly started to get into more IMSA stuff. Obviously checked out Le Mans for the first time, really doing so and paying attention to what was going on. So yeah, next year with a fresh reset, definitely from the start of the year with the Rolex 24, going to be trying to pay more attention and being more tuned into IMSA, because it's a great series. It's an underrated series.
Sure.
Doesn't get enough attention as it deserves. And maybe adding somebody like Magnussen here, of course, brings more attention to the series. Pretty high profile name, being in F1 for as long as he has. His father, his connections to sports cars as well. So great move for Chip Ganassi Racing. And you've got to imagine that they'll be up at the front once again when they return and battling for race victories.
Yeah, I'm very happy that Chip Ganassi is opening this team back up again, and it's allowing opportunities for some guys that are being let go. And he's getting an all-star lineup here, basically at the perfect time. So I'm very, very excited for the Rolex 24 to really kick off the calendar again. Saying that, though, we still have Formula One for the remainder of this season for 3 more weeks consecutively here. But besides that, we've got nothing really on deck in terms of racing until about late January, besides the Chili Bowl and stuff. But until then, we've got Formula One. And I mean, Kevin Magnussen, congratulations on your new move. At least you found something for next year. So I'm sure you would have liked to have had something instead of sitting on your couch. So this is a nice move for himself. So I'm excited to see how Chip Ganassi does in the Rolex 24. And that's where Magnussen will make his debut for the team. So he's going to have a short off season as well, going from a early December kind of finish to the season here and going to a late November start for the next one. So any final thoughts on Magnussen there?
Yeah, just a fun move, definitely for IMSA, adding somebody with that much kind of cachet with him in terms of what he's been able to do in Formula One, the career over there. Unfortunate that this is likely where it comes to an end for him. Without, just kind of was at the wrong place at the wrong time for a lot of it, to be honest. But definitely showed some flashes, and hopefully he can come over to IMSA and get some race victories and show up pretty well.
Yeah, hopefully he can finish the season strong here in his Formula One tenure as well. I love to see him get a points finish or something like that if they get lucky with some sort of crazy wreck or crazy race over here over the next 2 weeks, because most likely Abu Dhabi won't present that opportunity, but Bahrain can present an opportunity for some sort of chaos to occur. So I'm excited for Magnussen, and I'm excited for Chip Ganassi Racing for their 2021 season. So the last bit of news before we finish up the news and notes section, before we get into the Bahrain GP preview, we've got Mick Schumacher basically all but confirmed by Adam Stern this morning that he's going to be taking that second seat for Haas, because it seems like Nikita Mazepin's going to take that first seat, is what it was rumored to be when they announced Grosjean and Magnussen's departure, but that's not confirmed. But for right now, we know that Schumacher is going to be going over to Haas with Alfa Romeo's lineup that we talked about 3.5 weeks ago or something like that. They're staying intact with Kimi Räikkönen and Antonio Giovinazzi. So this is the opportunity for Schumacher to stay in the Ferrari camp, stay in the Ferrari Junior Academy to an extent over at Haas. And it's going to be crazy to see a Schumacher back on the Formula One grid in 2021.
Yeah, it's going to be great to see that. And regardless as to your thoughts as whether it should have been Alfa Romeo, Haas, or whatever Schumacher ends up at, he's shown this year that he's probably deserving of an F1 seat. He currently leads F2 in that title race, which will come thick and fast in these next couple of weeks, because they've got 4 different races, obviously the feature race and then the sprint race the following day coming up, returning after a month break this upcoming weekend, and then the weekend after with the outer layup of the Bahrain circuit. Stop it with the oval. It's not an oval. It's not even close to an oval when you look at the layout. But anyways,
Square.
Okay, I'll hear a square versus an oval, definitely. But yeah, no, it's just a move that made sense when you look at all the different perspectives of it at this point. Haas is kind of looking to reset at this point after a couple down seasons where started really strong and have kind of gone downhill from there versus kind of trending upwards. They've had the same driver lineup for basically their entire existence, with the exception of the first year Esteban Gutierrez was there. Since then, it's been the same lineup of Magnussen and Grosjean. So just a full kind of reset for them going into next season. They needed it, but the question is going with Mick Schumacher. Definitely the Ferrari ties are strong there and kind of coordinating that move, but it seems like Mazepin will be his teammate there. So you've got two fairly inexperienced drivers there coming in, unless there's a curveball and isn't Mazepin at the end of the day. So Schumacher has shown well in F2 this year. Look for him to finish the season well, whether that does end up with him winning the title or not. Has looked very good this season, deserving of that bump up to the next level. But if it is Mazepin as his teammate, that's going to be a lot to ask of a couple of rookies there, and especially somebody with the name value of Schumacher. You would maybe hope that he would be going to maybe a comfier situation where maybe the pressure isn't on him as much to kind of be the guy that maybe gets the results or helps develop the car, or he has a teammate that can kind of help take the stress off of him, making the jump up to F1. Going to be interesting to see how that goes into next year. But in terms of what was available, what was left, really the only move for Schumacher to make at this point was going to Haas. So it's nice that it seems like that bow will be tied in, whether it's this weekend after the couple Bahrain races or whether it'll be after the F2 season is finally complete. It's nice that we're finally trending towards the confirmation of Schumacher at Haas, because it's been something that's been floating around for a while, but it now seems like we'll finally get that confirmation here shortly.
I would love to see Nico Hülkenberg partner him over there.
I mean, that would be fantastic.
I think it would be a great partnership. The German connection there.
Really strong lineup as well.
A veteran with a rookie. I think Haas would be making a huge mistake if they don't go with someone like Hülkenberg, who's just waiting there to be picked. And that's basically his only option right now, as it seems like either Red Bull's going to go with Sergio Perez or stick with Alex Albon for next season. So I think Hülkenberg's kind of out of the running in that seat if he ever was in it. So I think it would be stupid for Haas not to go with someone like Hülkenberg. But at the end of the day, money does end up buying things.
Money talks.
Nikita Mazepin and his father definitely have a load of it to try and get him into that seat for next season. So I'm happy that Schumacher's at least the one that seems to get that seat. We'll wait till official confirmation on that. But for right now, once Adam Stern reports something, it's basically confirmed. So it's very, very exciting to see a Schumacher back on the grid. I hope there's not too much pressure on the kid next season, because
that's wishful thinking.
I know, but just based off of the car that he's going in kind of thing, I hope there's not too many expectations. I'd love to see him get a point here or there. But besides that, if Haas doesn't take that big of a step next season, then I hope that he doesn't get run out of F1 just based off of his namesake and the pressure that comes with it, with being the son of one of the greatest, if not the greatest, Formula One driver of all time. So it's big shoes to fill for Schumacher in terms of his father's legacy, but I'm hoping that he can have a long and illustrious F1 career, and it starts with Haas, it seems. So that's the F1 side of things in terms of news, but it does not stop there on today's episode, as we have got the Bahrain GP preview, the first of two races at Bahrain International Circuit for the next 2 weeks here, and then we go to Abu Dhabi to finish off the already confirmed champion in Lewis Hamilton. That season is done and dusted. The Constructors' Championship is done and dusted. So there's not much to play for in terms of the top tier or the top spot for this season, but the midfield battle is very, very intriguing as we move into the final 3 weeks here. So it's the beginning of a 3-week stint here to end the season for Formula One. So what are your thoughts going into this weekend, Kyle? We'll throw out predictions in a little bit, but what are you thinking going into a Bahrain weekend? There's not really much on the line for the top guys in the Mercedes duo, but for the rest of the teams, it's a huge weekend.
Yeah, the battle that everyone's been watching this season hasn't been the championship one, to be honest. It's been that battle for kind of fourth in the drivers' standings. and third in the constructors. And once again, that battle remains super, super close and is one of the best things to watch right now in F1, because you have, after the Turkish Grand Prix, a couple big results for Ferrari. So all of a sudden they're kind of back in the conversation if they can have another good weekend here.
They were closer to AlphaTauri
going into Turkey, there was questions of whether AlphaTauri would pass them, because they showed some speed at times and maybe would be able to pick up more points than Ferrari and maybe pass them. But instead, Ferrari gets a couple big finishes there. All of a sudden they're only 6 points back of Renault for fifth in constructors. And you look at the entire third through sixth there, it's all really close. And one retirement, one surprising podium or anything like that can completely change the situation here, just as it did last time at Turkey when Sebastian Vettel goes out and gets the podium. We kind of expected Racing Point to get a podium in that race. But just great battles going into this weekend. Going to be great to see who shows up, who doesn't. Can Ferrari continue the positive momentum from Turkey into this race, or whether they'll fall short and maybe go back to what we were expecting from them pre-Turkey. So a lot to pay attention to in that mid-pack battle. The top end will probably be, as you would expect, as per usual, what has been some order of Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen, but still a lot to play for in that mid-pack battle.
Yeah, we've got Racing Point in third right now with 154 points, McLaren with 149, so only 5 points between those two organizations right now. McLaren got off to that hot start with Lando Norris getting a podium when we first came back, and he's had some struggles since then in some races. He's been fairly good, but some things his own doing, and sometimes his track position. So, but Racing Point just been kind of nicking points off here and there, and it didn't really have anything to do with Nico Hülkenberg having to step in for multiple times this season with Lance Stroll and Sergio Perez missing races. But, I mean, those points still count towards Racing Points total. But it's been quite the season for the Pink Panthers, and the fact that they're in third right now. Sergio Perez fourth in the driver's standings right now at 100 points is very, very impressive for missing, I guess, 2 races it was, right? For in England there for the British GPs and the 70th anniversary GP. So very much a successful season for Sergio Perez. He's only been he's the third highest scorer compared to Bottas and Hamilton over the past, I think, 7 races it is. So it has to do with Verstappen's kind of inconsistency there, getting some wrecks and just making some mistakes. And Perez has been there to capitalize on getting consistent points. So very, very intriguing battle between those two. Renault just a little bit behind there, 13 points behind McLaren. So then 18 points behind Racing Point. So they're a little bit behind the 8 ball here if they want to try and get up there, but there's 3 races still to do it. So there's definitely some time to do that. Esteban Ocon hasn't done as well as I thought he would for Renault this season. I'm going to be honest. We'll talk about the F1 season in its entirety. I think Ocon is maybe one of my biggest disappointments this season, just based off of coming back into Formula One and being so highly touted. And I just think he hasn't performed quite to that level I was thinking, and Ricciardo getting a podium this season kind of is, and Ocon's never really been close to what Ricciardo's level has been this season. So Renault a little bit behind there, but they're definitely not out of that third place running. And then Ferrari have sneaked right back into it to try and maybe take 5th from Renault now, and they're at 130 points, only 6 points behind Renault. So we'll see what happens with Ferrari. It's very much a power circuit here at Bahrain, so their engine has been kind of lacking in this season, so the wet really helped kind of mitigate that and kind of diminish that impact that it has on their performance. So maybe we'll see Ferrari come back down to earth a little bit this weekend in Bahrain and the next 2 weekends, even the next 3 weekends with Abu Dhabi being a power circuit as well. But hopefully Ferrari can squeak in there. I love for Sebastian Vettel to get back into a little bit of a good form here to end his Ferrari tenure, as a lot of these guys are leaving their teams in just a matter of weeks here. We've got Carlos Sainz in his final 3 weeks with McLaren. We've got Daniel Ricciardo in his last 3 weeks for Renault. I mean, it's crazy to think that he's already done it Renault after that huge move he made to go from Red Bull to Renault, and now he's leaving it already. So
Sergio Perez leaving Racing Point. We don't know where he's going to end up. Like, this has been a
could be at Red Bull.
crazy kind of situation here for silly season here in Formula One. And to Perez's point as well, he probably should have a second podium as well when you look back to, I believe it was Imola, where they decided to pit him in kind of that weird decision there. Might have been just before that. I can't exactly remember. But yeah, a great battle here. You've got Perez, Leclerc, and Ricciardo separated by 4 points between 4th through 6th in the driver's standings. Just spectacular stuff in the mid-pack. It's unfortunate that the top end has been so dominant, but I feel like
it's not even close.
I feel like this year versus last year especially, that the mid-pack battle has been given that spotlight and has been given more attention as the season's gone along, because it is kind of where the entertainment is in Formula One right now. All those teams are just so close week in, week out. One team shows up one weekend and then the next they might be the lesser of those 3 or 4 teams. It's been great to watch the kind of back and forth of it all. And it's going to come down to these last 3 weeks of the season as to who will end up being that 4th driver in the standings and who will end up being that 3rd constructor. Because quite frankly, there's a lot of prestige and a lot of money on the line for these teams based off of those constructor standings.
Huge stakes go along with that 3rd place. There's a lot of money involved. It's like $15 million or something like that difference. So it's massive amounts for next season in terms of funding and R&D and how they want to improve the car, So, I mean, the fact that Verstappen, I'm looking at it now, is only 27 points behind Valtteri Bottas, and then he's 110 points behind Lewis Hamilton. Like, it's just not even close this season in terms of the top rankings. And just think Bottas started the season off with a win. Hamilton's form's just been lights out since then. And Verstappen is not out of it. If Bottas stumbles here, has another non-points finish or something goes wrong with him over the next couple of races, because Mercedes are going to be trying stuff, it seems, over the next 3 weeks. So you wonder how much experimenting they end up doing, and maybe it costs them to some extent, but I imagine they won't put themselves at risk for a race victory to Verstappen. So I'd love to see Verstappen trying to challenge Bottas here in the final 3 weeks here for that 2nd place, because what a kind of gunshot that would be to Mercedes, that they don't finish 1-2 in the season that they were meant to be the most dominant ever. And it's going to be fascinating, that midfield battle, though. That's the thing I'm going to be watching intently, as I'm sure many other F1 fans are, because the race at the top is basically done. So there's not much else for the midfield battle to go towards. But what are you thinking here for this weekend in terms of qualifying, Kyle? Because it's very much a power circuit. Mercedes is just dominant here. Ferrari's been good here as well, but with the performance this season, I don't expect Ferrari to be challenging for a pole position. So if you had to pick between the two, most likely with Mercedes, who are you thinking between Bottas and Hamilton for pole?
Yeah, I mean, unless we get some miraculous weather, which is Bahrain, so it's unlikely. But there is like, I think what was it, like 20%, 25%, something like that
in the desert in Bahrain.
It's not insignificant for Bahrain. I'll just say that. But unless we get a surprise, it's probably going to be the main players you expect at the front, and Mercedes probably getting the 1-2, and probably Verstappen 3rd. But when you look at the rest of it, and I'll circle back around to my pole position pick at the end of it, I wonder maybe if Racing Point can maybe sneak their way up there again. We know, obviously, the Mercedes power. It's been strong this season. And coming off of what was a very, very strong Turkish Grand Prix, maybe they can carry that momentum into this weekend and maybe get some good results here. I don't know maybe about getting a top 3 qualifying position by any means, but maybe they end up being that kind of best of the rest team this weekend and maybe solidify themselves as kind of that 3rd constructor and solidify Perez as that number 4 driver in the driver's standings here. That's maybe what I'm looking for this weekend. But in terms of pole, how do you not go with Lewis Hamilton, right? Like, it's just been that season where it's been so dominant. Like, maybe just with the championship all sealed up, maybe the foot comes off the pedal a little bit or something like that. But then again, it's Lewis Hamilton, so you don't expect that from him. So I'll go with the boring route, and I'll say Hamilton gets it done for pole position.
I'm going to go with Bottas just to be different. I have a little bit of a funky feeling about Bottas this weekend. I think he could surprise some people now that the pressure's off of him to try and challenge Hamilton. He can just go out there and race, and the pressure's off of Hamilton to try and secure it. So he can maybe take it a little easier. I know he wants to win. That's not really in his in his veins that he's hardwired, he says, that to win. But I think Bottas can surprise the people here. Rosberg ran very well against Hamilton when he was his teammate, so I think Bottas can do something similar here, and I'm very, very excited to see qualifying on how it all pans out, because that midfield battle is going to be, whoever comes out on top of that is going to be in a very good position going forward here.
Yeah, it's going to be great to see how that kind of plays out this weekend. And Bahrain is a circuit that usually we see at the beginning of the year, and it's kind of teams trying to feel out how things go, versus this season where they're going to it at the end of the season. And they've kind of figured everything out that they've got for the season. And it's kind of everybody going there with all the chips on the table, versus usually at the beginning of the year where maybe we don't know what to expect with it being the beginning of the season and teams still trying to figure things out. So definitely a different situation for teams to go to for Bahrain this weekend. And then obviously after this, going to a completely different layout. So that curveball as well. But even with the championship all sealed up, still lots of different storylines to pay attention to this weekend. Yeah,
for sure. I'm always look forward to Bahrain just because of the pictures that they show. It's just a beautiful race under the lights. I think it's the first night race of the season, if I'm not mistaken, as well.
I think so.
Which is kind of,
because it's all been like European races, so it's all been in that time zone. But yeah. Very, very exciting there. And it's going to be at 6 a.m. my time, so not too bad in terms of wake up time, potentially. We'll see if I want to get up that early or not on a Sunday. But for you, it's peak time, 9 a.m. You can't ask for much more than that. Yeah, it's great. Especially after Turkey and how rough that one was. This is a nice
thanks. One. Yeah, I would love to see it just push back a couple of hours more. I wouldn't mind an 8 a.m. start. I would get up for that, but 6 a.m., but I don't need to get up on a weekend. It's not ideal. Not ideal. But nonetheless, it's going to be a fun one. And I think the race after that, I'm going to just check.
The race after that is a morning. It's a day race. So for me, it's at midnight. For you, what is that then?
No, is it? It's not at midnight. It would be at noon. For you. Is this?
Oh, sorry. Yes, it is noon here. So
yeah,
is that even? What time is it starting then?
That's 9.
Is that
That's very late.
Yeah, that's very late there.
That's
interesting. Let's try and bust out the time zones here.
Oh, whoa, that is late. 8 p.m. start time. Whoa!
How about that?
All right, they want to. Formula One after dark.
I just assumed it was a midnight start for me, and it was going to be like they do like one night.
They do the 24-hour clock here, so that's, I can see why it's a bit confusing. What is my Abu Dhabi time? 5 a.m.
Yeah. Okay. The end of the season is always going to be the rough one, but hey, I'll take an 8 a.m. start to finish the year. You've got the rougher ones, unless it's like the Asian races.
Yeah, that's true. I can kind of stay up a little bit later, and it just kind of works into the nighttime. But I'm looking forward to the second Bahrain race a little bit more so than the first one now with the time. But
I'm going to love the second one. I don't care about how the race goes. I'm just excited that I don't have to wake up super early for it.
Yeah, we've got preview shows from here on out for the Thursday episodes, so that's going to be nice. And then after that, we can kind of go into the creative mode once again. If you didn't,
Monday will be mainly like a little bit of news if anything happens over the weekend, but kind of like our episode to race recap and mix in a little bit of other stuff depending on how entertaining the F1 race was and if there's stuff to talk about. And then Thursday we'll mix in a little bit. But yeah, after last week, I'm very much okay with 3 races to end the season, and then a little bit of a break, and then right back into the swing of things pretty early on now with Chili Bowl all of a sudden having quite the driver lineup there, which happens in the middle of January. And then to end it off in January, you've got the Rolex 24, and from there you're rolling right into Daytona 500 territory.
Yeah, it's coming fast here. Yeah, and before we sign off today's episode, it's a bit of a shorter one today, which is a bit nicer. Who are you picking for the win for the Bahrain GP this week? Yeah, you got your pole in Hamilton.
I went boring.
Ends up switching.
I went boring with the pole there with Lewis Hamilton, but you know what? I'll say we get a little bit funky with the race, and I'll say Max Verstappen gets his second win of the year.
Oh, yeah, I would love that. I'm going to switch things up as well. I don't think the pole sitter wins. I'm going to go Lewis Hamilton to get
there. We go.
So I'm going to go with speed with Bottas on the Saturday, and then Hamilton's just consistency pays off on the Sunday to get it done.
And just before we go, one more best of the rest. Who do you got?
I think Verstappen for myself. I mean,
other than Red Bull. Other than Verstappen. So fourth place, Albon included.
How about which constructor is going to get the highest point finish besides Red Bull and Mercedes? We'll go with that.
Okay. Well, that doesn't change for me because I'll say Sergio Perez gets fourth and Racing Point then for that.
Okay. You put me on the spot here. I don't think McLaren gets it done this weekend.
Neither do I.
I'd probably go Racing Point as well, but to go differently, I'll say Renault gets it done over McLaren. I think Ricciardo could probably sneak in there. He's always run pretty well around this track. So I go Renault ahead of McLaren this weekend, but I feel like McLaren struggles on these tracks traditionally, but we'll see if their fortune ends up changing this weekend in Bahrain. So also Schumacher and Elliott go head-to-head this weekend for the F2 championship. Still 8 drivers mathematically have a shot going into this weekend with 4 rounds left.
Yeah, so. it's only 2 weekends, but it's kind of deceiving because they run the feature race and then the sprint race. So still lots and lots of points up for grab. I think it's 40 points each weekend if you win both up for grabs. So
you never see that though, which is crazy. You never see the sprint race
reverse
winner
grid
in the future.
And all that kind of stuff. But still lots and lots of points up for grabs. And there is a bit of a gap between first and second, but all of a sudden, if anything happens in the feature race, if anything happens in the sprint race and the other one gets a bunch of points, that can erase very, very quickly. So definitely keeping a keen eye on the F2 results this weekend going into I guess it is technically the penultimate weekend for them, at least not quite yet for F1, but coming down to the end of things for both series.
Yeah, for sure. Make sure to go follow us on Instagram at The Green Flag. And we've got a Twitter account now. If you didn't tune into our Monday episode, we have a Twitter account now. So make sure to go follow us on that at The Green Flag Pod is the @ there. And then also subscribe to the YouTube channel as well, The Green Flag. It's been quite the journey that we've had with the social media channels over the past couple of months. But it's been a fun ride this entire season. And we've got 3 weeks left really before the 2020 racing calendar rounds out. So any final thoughts before we round out today's episode?
Yeah, just excited to watch some cars on track again. It was nice having a week off versus what was kind of a hectic few weeks there with kind of IndyCar, F1, NASCAR all kind of going at like full speed there for a little bit. It was crazy
the difference.
But then all of it kind of wrapping up in a couple weeks separated. So it was nice to kind of have a week off, do a little bit of a fun thing there on Monday with our driver grades, but it's the meat and potatoes. It's the reason why we do this stuff. It's the races. And so it's great that'll be back this weekend with a couple F2 races. And then obviously the big one on the Sunday with Bahrain Grand Prix.
Yeah, we'll be sure to keep you updated on how that all pans out on Monday. So that's it for this one. It's been a bit of a shorter one. I think this is our shortest episode on record, if I'm not mistaken. So
excluding the
we don't
Live
count ramp. We don't count Spirit Live, but for the summer months and into the fall into now winter, this is definitely the one that has had the least amount of news to talk about, but still there's news nonetheless. They just want to keep us entertained here at the Green Flag. So hopefully you guys enjoyed today's episode. Make sure to give us a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And for this episode, I've been Lukas Wacker. He's been Kyle Cushman. Signing off for now. We will talk to you Monday after hopefully an exciting Bahrain GP weekend.